Hello and welcome to another review here on Theme Park Worldwide. In this video I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on Stealth, a roller coaster located at Thorpe Park here in the United Kingdom. Now Stealth is what's known as an Intamin Accelerator Coaster and it opened at the park in 2006. Now as always with these review videos here on the channel, I'm going to start off by talking about the location of the ride within the park. So with Stealth, it's the tallest roller coaster at Thorpe Park. It's 205 foot tall, so of course it can be seen all throughout Thorpe Park and beyond. It can be seen from a long way away when you are looking towards Thorpe Park. So the ride itself, with it being so high, of course when you walk into Thorpe Park, it has a real impact on the skyline. It's off to the right hand side. Of course you've got all the other coasters that make up the skyline at Thorpe Park, and then Stealth off there to the right hand side with its white track and also blue colour scheme as well. So basically it starts off all the track ground level, and at the bottom of the top hat on each side is blue, and then it gradually sort of fades into a white colour scheme, of course because of the height of the coaster and it blending more into the surrounding areas and the sky. And yeah, you know, I really like the colour scheme of Stealth. Along with that, in terms of the location, when you're walking around towards it, you really get an idea on just how big this ride is. And you've got to think for Thorpe Park, when it was put in 2006, you know, you had some fantastic coasters at the park, but they hadn't seen anything quite like this in terms of the height and scale of this ride. And when you walk around towards it through the Amity themed area, you know, and you get closer and closer to Stealth, it really builds up that anticipation. I remember when I first rode it in 2006, I'd not been on anything like that before, so I was coming closer to it, and you know, it builds up that anticipation. In terms of the themed area where it's located, it's part of the Amity area of Thorpe Park. So Amity is quite a big area and it's one that's gone through a lot of changes over the years. The sort of main part of the area is Amity Cove, and that's where Tidal Wave can be found. You've got all the buildings which are really nicely done, and of course you've got like the KFC there, and just that overall cove area is really nice. And then it used to flow quite well, of course, from 2006 up into the expansion of Amity Cove into Amity Speedway. However, they went and put in Angry Birds Land, so it's very strange really, because you've got two parts of Amity and it's kind of split down the middle by Angry Birds Land. So I'm really hoping that something is done about that in the near future when Angry Birds comes to an end. Hopefully that they'll sort of continue that theme again up to connect the two areas of Amity into one. But it's difficult because, you know, Tidal Wave and Stealth are next to each other as part of the area. However, the pathway kind of goes through Angry Birds. So it's a little bit strange. I'd have thought really that Angry Birds would have been better off having the entrance on this side so you could still walk up as part of Amity and then you'd sort of go into Angry Birds. But it's one of them things, isn't it? You know, I didn't design the area. That's just my thoughts on it and what I would have done if it was me. But anyway, you get up into the Stealth Plaza really, and that is Amity Speedway itself, and that goes on to the theme of this ride. It is a speedway, it's for testing all these vehicles, and the area itself is really nicely put together. Now there's not actually loads of theming around in this area because the coaster is so big and so impressive. It doesn't need loads of stuff to enhance the experience. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be complaining if there was some more theming scattered about, but you know, the coaster really steals the show, and with it being themed to this speedway, they can kind of get away with not having loads of theming. Of course, you know, that doesn't mean there isn't anything. There's quite a lot still to look at in the area in terms of you've got this WWTP radio truck that's parked there. You've got the huge entrance tyre that is the entrance to the queue line, and I'll be talking about that in just a moment. And then you've got like all the little finishing touches, like some of the painting that's done on the floor, you know, to paint like a racetrack all the way around, which is quite nice. You've got the fish and chips shop that all fits in with that sort of cars theme and the whole sort of racetrack feel that they've got going on. They've got things like some tyres and stuff in the area. Up on the station you've got some big tannoy speakers. Of course you've got the actual traffic lights as well that form part of the launch sequence. So yeah, you know, there's a lot what comes into the overall theme. However, there's not actually loads of theming items just about in the area, so to speak. But anyway, you know, at that point of course you're ready to ride, so you head in through this huge archway. Really do like that. The entrance arch to the ride, that's this big tyre, absolutely huge, and you walk into that and into the queue line, which goes firstly straight underneath the launch track. And What I really like about the queue line for Stealth, again, there's no theming in the queue line, but it is quite well landscaped all through the trees. You get some really nice views of Stealth and also the Swarm as well, which is sort of opposite it behind, just over the water a little bit. But yeah, you get some cracking views of Stealth. And you've got to think from a first-time rider's point of view, it really builds up the anticipation, because these Intamin accelerators, they're not exactly quiet coasters, are they? You know, when you've got the brake fins that retract and it launches forward, you know, it makes a loud noise. And I've been on it, obviously, when I went on for the first time in 2006, I was quite scared to ride. I remember going on it over the years with many different people who, you know, have never been on it before. And you're standing there in that queue line, looking at that 205-foot tall top hat, hearing all these sounds of the coaster, and it's really quite intimidating. As much as it's playing all this rock music and it's quite a happy theme, it's intimidating at the same time, especially with how the queue line's set up and looking towards the ride. So yeah, you carry on making your way around the queue line, a little bit of up and down cattle pen, but like I say, it's, you know, it's not too bad. You know, you've got some nice big long sections where it spans out and you just come back on yourself once instead of like up and down all the way. So it's not too bad in terms of that part of the queue. As you're getting closer towards getting on the ride, you pass underneath the launch track again, and that's a really nice view in the queue line. If you look out to the right, looking out at the whole Stealth Plaza, all the speedway, and of course the top hat and the end of the launch track. So yeah, it really sort of builds up that anticipation. As you come up towards the station building, you've got the operator's cabin that's all nicely themed up. You know, it's like the race sort of control area, and that all fits in really nicely because, like I say, you've got the traffic lights that are part of the launch sequence that come off that. You've got on the station all these different speakers, like for the tannoy and for this race that's going on. You know, it's very nicely put together, the station. However, it's not actually got a roof on it, which, you know, some people might be surprised at in terms of if you've never been on it before. It was actually the same for Rita, another Intamin Accelerator coaster that opened the year before in 2005 at Alton Towers. Of course, another park owned by Merlin Entertainments. At the time, they were owned by the Two Swords Group, but it was an investment that saw them build Rita and then Stealth the year after. Same sort of ride, same sort of theme. Of course, they've got completely different layouts, but in terms of the manufacturer, they're both Intamin, they're both accelerator coasters, and they've both got a race theme, or at least Rita's has changed a lot now, but it did do in 2005. So, you know, Stealth came in 2006 and it was like the big boy, you know, of Rita. So you had Rita the year before. We were like, oh, brilliant coaster at Alton Towers, really enjoyed it. Of course, now, you know, other rides that have gone in at Alton Towers, it's gone a lot further down in the rankings. But 2005, thought, yeah, great coaster. And then THORPE Park went in with Stealth in 2006. And it was like, okay, yeah, like we've got this massive beast of a coaster that's just come in from Intamin. So yeah, you know, your station is open, and what I'm trying to say here is, at the time, Two Swords were trying to make some pretty quick investments because they knew they were going to be selling at some point. So they didn't really spend loads and loads of money what they didn't have to, and that's why there's no station roof, I'm led to believe. Like the same with Stealth, the same with Rita, they were done as more budget additions, hence why there wasn't loads of theming on either of them. However, you know, you got the coaster. They put the coaster in what they needed to install, and like an entrance and some other bits of theming, but not loads, and that is one of the reasons why there's no station building on either of those. So at the time they were classed as budget additions, but then you look at some of the other rides, you know, like the Swarm hasn't got a station roof either. So it's one of them, isn't it? It all does, you know, come down to budget reasons at the end of the day. But yeah, with Stealth Station, they can kind of get away with it with the whole sort of race theme, and I think that's why they did it. But in my opinion, I would have still designed it with a roof. You've got to think of the staff working on the platform, but you know, that's the only drawback with that one. So at that point then, it's time for you to pick your row and of course board. It's got a front row queue that I really like, and that is my place to ride Stealth. I enjoy it on the back. It's a little bit, you know, you feel that intensity a bit more on the launch, and especially when you make your way into some of the other elements of the ride. However, I do really like the front row view. For me on Stealth is fantastic. So you make your way in, say we're sat on the front row, brilliant view straight down the launch track, which again makes it for me being on the front. 20 riders per train on Stealth, five cars. Each car can have 4 riders, and it's 2 riders next to each other. In terms of the restraint system, it's an over-the-shoulder restraint that you might be familiar with from a lot of Intamin coasters, that sort of fastens around you here, you put in a seat belt, and that's how you're restrained in. The restraints over the shoulders here don't sort of come too close to your shoulders actually. You know, you do get quite a bit of room to breathe on those. I find them seats to be pretty comfortable. I know that some people don't find them that comfy at all. It all goes on height and build and that sort of thing, doesn't it, when it comes to restraints? But, you know, for me, I find them quite comfortable to sit in on Stealth and Rita and that type of restraint for those coasters. But yeah, you know, I like how free you are. You can still turn your head and move your arms and stuff, get your arms up if you want to, which is nice. You know, you're not fully pinned in right back into your seat like you are with some other coasters. So yeah, of course, then the launch sequence begins, and I really like this because you've got the American style announcements building it up, the traffic lights above you, which is really nice. And yeah, you can just see when you look out the brake fins retracting and going down as well, and you can just hear the noises that, you know, the mechanics that go into this ride. That's really exciting. And of course, then at that point, the train then attaches onto the catch car underneath, and you can hear that, you can feel it actually as well, sort of attach onto the train, and then that is it. You know, the anticipation has built up at this point. Your heart is pounding. No matter how many times you've been on Stealth, you know, your heart's going to be pounding at this point, and mostly with excitement for me, and you're thinking, oh, here we go, can't wait for that feeling again. And that's it. You are then launched. This hydraulic launch system, and you know, you do get a big kick on this as you are launched from 0 to 82 miles an hour in 1.9 seconds. It is a very, very snappy launch. In fact, it's one of the snappiest launches out there, you know, in terms of it gets up to that speed really, really quick. Like, I've been on a lot of launch coasters now, absolutely loads, but there's something about Stealth's launch that is really, really intense in terms of it gets to that speed of 82 miles an hour in under 2 seconds. You can really, really feel it. You know, you're pushed straight back into your seat, and it's brilliant on the front. The back row, the launch, I'd say, is a little bit more intense. But again, for me, the front row, that the wind blowing in your face, and you know, that adds to it for me, and that's why it makes Stealth a front row coaster for me. But yeah, at that point, you make your way down the launch track, you know, and it's fantastic. I really do enjoy it, and of course, that feeling that you get going down an Intamin accelerator, there's nothing else quite like it. Like the LSM launches don't quite have the same kick, do they? Of course, as like you ride something like Icon at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, the launches are nothing on what you have on something like Stealth. You know, with that acceleration and you know that speed that it gets up to so quickly in such a short amount of time. At that point, it starts to make its way up towards the top hat, and this is a really forceful part of the ride. No matter where you sat on the train, you're going to feel a lot of force and intensity, and I really like this because of course you're launching horizontally and then you curve straight up vertically up this tower, up this top hat, and yeah, there's nothing quite like that feeling of, you know, 1 minute you're launching along like that, and the next minute you're facing up towards the sky. It's brilliant as you head right up to the top. You then sort of bank round to the left like 90 degrees and slowly over the top hat, and that is, you know, a brilliant feeling because you look over Thorpe Park and all the other rides. You don't have that much time to take it in, but of course, depending on how the conditions are on the day, sometimes you'll go over it a little bit faster, sometimes you'll go over a little bit slower. You know, it all depends on the conditions on the day and the weather and the wind speed and all that sort of stuff, of course, the weight on the train, all them different factors determine how fast you really go over the top. There's been days where we flew over it like really quick. There's been other days where we've gone that slow and we thought we were nearly going to roll back, but I'll come more into the rollbacks in just a second. So yeah, you go over the top. On the front, you get some really nice hang time before you go back down. On the back, you sort of whipped back down when you go into the drop from the top hat. So, you know, it depends what you prefer. For me, like I say, the front row really does it in terms of the views, but the back row is that a little bit more intense, and it depends what you like. You know, if it's a quiet day and I go to Thorpe Park, I'll have 5 rides on the front and 5 rides on the back, you know, and just really make the most of it the best I can do. Very, very forceful, like I say, if you're on the back row as you make your way into that drop. But the front, you know, you're just hanging there in your restraint as you make your way down. Of course, you then twist another 90 degrees at that point, and you're straight down before the train starts to curve, of course, and up into the airtime hill, where the train does start to be slowed down at that point. However, you get that weightless feeling when you go up into that airtime. And again, it all happens so quick. Stealth is under 15 seconds, so it's all done very, very quickly. And all that happening in that short period of time. You know, the anticipation, the launch itself, the going from horizontal to vertical, the waiting at the top very slowly on the top hat before you make your way back down. So then going up into that airtime hill, your body's gone through so many forces at that point that you just feel like relieved, and you got your hand up in the air, and oh, what an amazing feeling as you come into the brakes. And you know, I don't think Stealth needed anymore. It doesn't need anything else, like in terms of the coaster itself. It just does exactly what it should have done. And like I say, it's one of the best launches out there. Really snappy. It's not my favorite launch, but it's one of my favorite launches in terms of how snappy it is right at the start, getting up to that 82 miles an hour in 1.9 seconds. Crazy, isn't it? But yeah, that's Stealth. You know, of course, it's a short ride, but it does enough, in my opinion. Really packs a punch. I was mentioning just about rollbacks. I've not actually experienced a rollback. I know people that have. And basically, a rollback is when the train doesn't build up enough speed to make it over the top part. And this can happen on all sorts of launch coasters. It happens on some of your bigger strata coasters out there, you know, like Kingda Car, Top Thrill Dragster. It happens on those, you know. So it's one of them, isn't it, where it can just roll back. And it has happened on Stealth. I'm sure it'll happen again at some point. The coaster itself is completely safe, completely designed to do that, and it will simply roll back, and that's what them brake fins are for, that of course retract before the ride launches, but they can come up and it can slow the train down and bring it to a really nice solid stop. So yeah, I've not actually experienced one. I've been there and seen a rollback on Stealth quite a few years ago now. However, I wasn't actually on the train, unfortunately. Not had a rollback. You know, it's really sad, isn't it? I would have really liked one, but maybe you've had a rollback. Let me know down below in the video comments. It's one of them things when you're an enthusiast that you want, isn't it? You're thinking, oh, come on, let's get a rollback. Let's experience it, see what it's like. But overall, they're my thoughts on Stealth at Thorpe Park. So just to summarise, I think it's one of the best launches out there on a coaster. The layout's really good fun. I like the theme, but that's where my improvements for this would come in. You know me in these reviews, I like to always suggest a few improvements that I would do. I wouldn't change anything to do with the coaster layout itself. However, two things I would change in terms of the ride. The trains I would change. So I'd keep the layout the same, but change the trains. I'd love it with lap bars. I think it'd be incredible with lap bars. And also I would add some more theming around, like the station. I'd completely finish that off. Maybe put some like petrol pumps, that sort of thing in, just to add some more theme to the ride, especially around the queue line, just to build that up a little bit more. But other than that, I thought it was a brilliant investment in 2006. I still think it's a great investment now for Thorpe Park. And it's a staple ride for them. Like, you know, you can see it from outside the park. When you get in there, you can see it from all areas of the park. Look over towards Stealth. And it's a pretty iconic ride now for the UK. It's the second tallest roller coaster in the UK and the fastest as well. You know, as much as at Blackpool Pleasure Beach, they do actually play a voiceover in the station claiming that the big one is the fastest. However, it has been proven in the past that Stealth is the fastest roller coaster in the United Kingdom. It is, you know, that little bit faster than the big one. There's not loads in it, but it is faster. It has been proven quite a few years back now, but the announcement does still play at Blackpool Pleasure Beach for it being the fastest. But like I say, it's not. Stealth takes that title, even though the big one at Blackpool does take the height record for the UK. But there we go. What are your thoughts on Stealth, the Intamin Accelerator located at Thorpe Park? I would love to know. Comment down below on this video. And of course, check out our many other reviews that I've filmed so far in our dedicated reviews playlist here on Theme Park Worldwide. So check it out on the channel. Along with that, there's going to be loads more reviews coming along the way. UK rides, European rides, America, Asia. There's going to be a whole mix coming up, and it's not just going to be roller coasters moving forward. Starting off with some coasters initially, but we're going to be moving into dark rides, water rides, flat rides, and so much more as we expand on our reviews here on Theme Park Worldwide. I'm Sean Sandbrook, thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. That means it's time to cue those credits. See you later.